Hey everybody, it's Amanda again. I wanted today to talk about just the term dysfunction. The reason why I want to do this is because I'm understanding that a lot of people, when they hear it, they think something a little more serious than what I am referring to in my book, but also in these podcasts. So, if you deal with or have dealt with severe psychological, physical, sexual, any other kind of abuse in your home, that is not what I am referring to when I talk about dysfunction. If there are behavioral issues that are very severe in your home or chronic illnesses, lack of resources to help you, that's not necessarily the level of dysfunction that I'm referring to. What I want to encourage you to see when we talk about dysfunction, or to think of it as something that's more your everyday issue that you come with. Um, we all deal with stress on a daily basis. It could be the stress of just waking up to your alarm and feeling tired. It could be the stress of the chaos in your home in the morning as everybody's getting up and ready. It could be the stress on the road with the drivers on the way to work. There's a lot of stress that we deal with every day. But that stress a lot of times will kind of lead into what feels like dysfunction for us in our family homes. And I mentioned in my previous podcast that a lot of times when we're with family, they tend to be the ones that will trigger us. And triggers are our own internal things. These are things that trigger me. It's no one else's responsibility to be aware of or to cater to my triggers. But family is very good at pushing those buttons, maybe intentionally, maybe not. And that interaction is what I'm referring to when I talk about dysfunction. Okay? So, how do you know if you're dealing with that? Um, have you ever felt like when you are around a certain person or groups of people that you feel like you're walking on eggshells? That would be dysfunction. Do you feel like when you are around these people, you experience a level of hypervigilance? And that just means I'm very aware of my surroundings. I'm maybe on edge. I can't rest and like just enjoy the company as much as I would like to. That level of like right on the edge of fight or flight. If you have that feeling, that's what I'm referring to. If you have some feelings that when you are around certain groups of people or your family members, that your love or the love that they show you is conditional, meaning I'll love you if you're good to me. I'll love you if you do this for me. I'll love you if, as opposed to I'm going to love you no matter what. That unconditional love that we all so desperately need and require and deserve. If you feel that way at home, chances are you are struggling with some dysfunction. So hopefully, as I'm talking about this, you can see that many of us, if not all, at one point or another, face levels of dysfunction in our life. Again, I refer back to family a lot because I know our families tend to be the ones that have a little more access into our personal lives, and because we grow up with those people, they tend to kind of be a part of our history, and history is typically what causes us to be triggered. So, not necessarily their fault, it's just part of the world in which we live. So, sometimes referring back to family is just the easier thing for me to do, but that does not mean that you don't have dysfunction or could have dysfunction in your relationships with your friends, in your relationships with your coworkers, in relationships with your boss, people at church or in social groups that you are involved in, dysfunction with your own children, which technically is considered family. So it's not all in one certain area of your life. Dysfunction can show itself in many different ways. And I wanted to speak just on that today because I think it's really important to normalize the stress that we all go through on a daily basis. I'm not a huge fan of sitting in that stress and catering to it in the sense that we don't allow ourselves to move forward, or that it creates kind of a dark cloud over us throughout the day. That isn't healthy for anyone. But I do think there's an important part of validation that comes with that stress or those feelings of dysfunction in your relationship with other people. And the validation of that is and should come from you, by the way. It is great, and we absolutely benefit from support from other people who can validate our feelings, for sure. But ultimately, we're responsible for ourselves. Again, that is a common theme for me as a therapist when I work with people is we can ask other people to help us through and to support us and to stand by our side, and we should. However, we cannot put all that responsibility on other people. It is our responsibility to manage our own stuff, and seek out therapy and things like that if you feel like you can't do it on your own. But I'm hoping that I can be here to give all of you some tools that you can use to help yourself through some difficult situations so that you feel more at ease and you feel capable of doing these things on your own. That essentially is going to build your sense of self-worth and self-esteem and your ability just in general in yourself to accomplish a lot of things on your plate moving forward. So going back to that, when I am experiencing some level of dysfunction, it is really important for me to, one, accept it, see it for what it is. I don't like it. I don't like this. I don't like how crazy things are in the morning in my home. I don't like how loud it is and how just everybody's yelling and I can't get in the bathroom and, everybody's hogging the sink and my mom's yelling at me to hurry up and dad's out the door before anyone sees him and, whatever it is for you. You don't like it. And that's okay. And I think the validation part is for you to say to yourself, I don't like it, and that's okay. That's validation. It's okay for me not to like that. I think as I work with people, there's a lot of this pressure that we have to just go with the flow and not acknowledge things that we struggle with. When in reality, by doing that, what we have, our feelings are real. So if I were going to do what is easiest, we can say is easiest, and I wake up in this chaotic home and I know I don't like it, but I'm just like, just go with it. This is just, it is what it is. Then I do that, but I'm shoving those feelings of frustration and anger and all of that. I'm shoving it down. And as I shove it down and I go day in and day out and day in and day out, and I don't make any changes within my control to that situation, then I'm more likely to blow up at one point. I'm more likely to project that anger and that frustration onto my other family members, which guess what that does? Creates more dysfunction. So the validation, one, knowing that I don't like something, but then validating it yourself is a huge, huge step. Give yourself permission to feel what you feel. That's huge. Once you can do that, then we move over to, okay, it's okay. Like I am the type of person that needs more of a quiet space in the morning. Say I'm 15 years old, and so not really an option for me, right? This is my home. This is where I live. What do I have control over? What in that situation could I possibly have control over if I know I need more of a quiet space? Think about it. And I'll just tell you off the top of my head. This is also, by the way, where a therapist comes into play and can really help you brainstorm. But if I'm working a 15-year-old who's saying these kinds of things, we're going to talk about, okay, well, what can we control? You have multiple siblings. It's a busy house. Everybody has to be out by a certain time. Would it be worth it enough for you to get up earlier than everybody else? To get your quiet in, yes, do you lose an hour of sleep? Sure. Yeah. Is that worth it to you? Do you feel like that would be a better start to your day? For you to get ready and do what you needed to do in a quiet home when everybody's sleeping, and then have a little bit of downtime as the chaos is going before you leave. Is that worth it? If I'm 15, I'm probably going to say no. But that could be an option, right? What could other options be? If it's quiet, not quiet in my house, but I need quiet, is there a possibility that maybe putting headphones on, like noise canceling headphones, would help me? There are a lot of people out there who struggle with noise, and it's not necessarily a mental health issue as much as sometimes it's just biological that, you know, your brain tends to kind of, it overreacts to noises as compared to other people, right? It's just a little more sensitive. And that just makes you who you are. But is wearing headphones, maybe that would be an option. Would they think that would be something that could help? I mean, would you be willing to try it? And of course, at 15, can you talk to your parents and let them know that so that they know you're not putting your headphones in to be stubborn and not listen to what they have to say in the morning? A big part of that as an adolescent would be talking through that with your parents so that they understand that you're trying to make your morning routine a little more conducive to what you need as a child, as an individual. But this could be also the case for any adult. If I am the mom, now, headphones as a mom taking care of kids might not be as doable, but even as an adult, those are things that conversations that need to be had with the family. It would be really hard in that situation to sit down and talk to your parents and be like, listen, I don't like the noise. It's too much for me. You need to make everybody else be quiet. Maybe some parents would try to do that, but I'll tell you it wouldn't be long term because that would be super unfair to the other people in the home, as well as very controlling. And what we want to try to pull away from as we deal with human behavior is trying to change other people to make our environment what we want it to be. We can't do that. There's nobody that you can change to make your situation better. And if someone else does change for you, that's great. But there should never be a goal of changing somebody else to make your life easier. Your goal should be, how can I take responsibility for my role in this and make it the best that I can make it, right? I'm not going to get rid of my family completely. I'm not going to be able to hit the mute button, and mute everybody out. So what can I do to try to make the beginning of my day the best that it can be? That's where your control is. And there's a lot of power that comes with that. So you acknowledge it. You validate your own feeling. You might have a conversation with somebody else if, they're involved. And then you implement the strategy. It might take trial and error, but you implement those strategies that you think might make a change. And then guess what? Typically it does. And you start to feel like, I have power now. I feel in control of my emotions because I have taken the time to pay attention to them, to acknowledge them, and to make some changes to start my day off better. And that's just one example, you guys. But this is just part of what we all deal with, as I said in the beginning, with stress and essentially dysfunction. The stress builds and builds and builds, and that leads into dysfunction. So how can we start to take control of the stressors that we experience and our experiences at all? Because my perception is my reality. So if I wake up and I'm stressed because everybody's loud, that's my reality. I might have a sibling who's like, it's really not that big of a deal, you're fine. That's their reality because their perception is their truth. So no one is right or wrong in these situations. What you need to worry about is you and what's going to work best for you. I hope some of this information helped and maybe normalize that term dysfunction a little bit in moving forward. Get you maybe motivated to do some self-reflection and think about why you're feeling what you're feeling and what changes you can make. As always, I am going to ask if you like this video and subscribe below. And I will continue to post some videos, and any input you guys have, questions, I would greatly appreciate and will respond to as soon as I can. You guys have an amazing day.